Hi, I'm Eli Cash. Your usual guide, Lizard Funk, will be with us shortly. But first, an introduction.
Get down!
Every great story has one, and Baldur's Gate 3 is no exception. In this week's guide, Lizard Funk will be showing you how your mod can have an introduction as impactful and memorable as those terrifying first moments on the Nautiloid, with the use of a pre-recorded cinematic. The point of a pre-recorded intro is that it gives you complete visual control that wouldn't normally be afforded your mod by using the game's engine alone. That is, until now. With all that said, let's get funky.
Welcome to a tutorial on how to make movies work in the BG3 toolkit. The background for this is quite simple. I noticed that BG3, like DOS 2, has calls for scripting in movies to play. Basically anytime during the game, you can call on the movie whenever you want. But unlike DOS 2, BG3 doesn't really use this function. There are only 3 movies part of BG3. One of them is the Larian splash screen, and then you have like a movie sequence before character creation and directly after. And after that, no movies are used. But in your custom campaigns and the stories you make, you would be able to play movies anytime you like, and the possibilities here are endless. You can really make whatever you want. Just like Eli did here, Eli spent a long time on crafting this movie from scratch. He didn't have any previous experience making this sort of cinematics, and I think the end result is really cool, so I'm happy to show it off to you guys. But the challenge I noticed when I started playing around with these movies is that while the toolkit and the toolkit with Moonglasses itself will export the movie and it's playable in-game, if you add any new audio, that is going to break. And this is a known issue that we really hope will be fixed by the Moonglasses devs. Really excited for the time when that happens. But until then, the solution for the broken audio is to unpack and repack your project. This is usually not an issue because we have the tools like LSLib to easily unpack and repack. But unfortunately what happens during this process is that any movie file is going to get broken. The movie files used in Baldur's Gate 3 are BNK files. You can download the RAD video tools, and if you download the RAD video tools you can easily make a BNK movie that you can just call whatever you want, and as long as you place it in the correct folder, and we get to that later, you can play it. But then the unpack and repack process destroys this movie file. And unfortunately there doesn't seem to be a good solution to this. There is something about the toolkit that doesn't compress this file or touch it in any way. If it's put through any sort of packing, it just breaks. So we have to use the toolkit to export the movie file, and we have to unpack and repack to have the audio working. So this tutorial explains to you how you can put these 2 pieces together. And the simple way to explain it is you need to have a project that contains your movie, and then you need to have a separate project containing everything else and your audio. And it took a long time to figure out. It probably says something about my intelligence level, but eventually we did, and the results are pretty cool. So I've linked the video below that shows off how this imaginary custom campaign would look in-game, and this tutorial video will explain to you how to do it. For the movie level, we just made a project and we put in a level. For example, you can go to a new level, basic level, you just create a level. We called ours test. So when you open that, it will just be an empty level. And the only thing we did was to save that. So as you can see, this level contains nothing. And we just saved it. And what happens then is that a folder structure is created. And then in the data folder, you go into mods. and we will find this mod that we called Perfect Creation Movie. Then you will have to find or make the folder localization. So if it's not here, you have to make it. And then you make the English folder, a video folder, and you place your movie file inside of the video folder. And that concludes the making of the movie project. So if you have more than one movie, you can place them in here. Just make sure to remember the file name, because that's what you will be calling on later. The other project you will make will be the project that contains everything but the movie. So the project we've included here on Nexus and in the tutorial is a test project I've been playing around with for a while. So it has this character creation level with a few edits, sorry about the rodents, and then actually we made our changes in level 2. This doesn't really matter, you can also just make a new level, like this will be your custom campaign, so do whatever you want with it. So we're going to show you how we set stuff up to play the movie and the audio. And we are now in the level that is called level 2. As you can see, there is a pub. I didn't actually create this from scratch, it's in the toolkit as a camp area in Jerez's Caress that was never used. The only thing I really did was add some beverages and food and stuff, and also I moved the fire, the bonfire for the camp, outside of the pub. So here we are. We can walk around in here, and as you might have seen in our showcase movie, we set up a conversation between these guys, and after Astarion is done talking, we will see a movie. Also, how cool is this? Never mind, the tutorial isn't about this. Okay, so let's go through what we've done here. So this is not a tutorial about how to make a dialogue or how to make a custom campaign. You can refer to my other tutorials for that. There are many good tutorials out there, also by, well, many of them by other people than me. But I will show you the scripts necessary for this movie. So we are opening the story editor, and there is one script in here called Volo Transfer, because originally I just wanted the script to put Volo in here since he is not actually in root templates. And let's go through it. So, since I wanted to teleport Volo in there, when level 2 is loaded, Volo is teleported to his position, which is a teleport trigger. Then I'm making some of the NPCs sit on chairs. You can use sit on entity, add in the character, and add in the chair in question. So I did that for 4 of them. And then, when you walk up to Kalak, there is an event trigger in front of her. I can show you actually. It's this one. It's easier if we just click this little diamond button and you can see the trigger. When we walk into this area, the conversation is going to trigger. And since this is a dialogue between many different people, you have to set it up in a specific way. There are a few different ways to do this, but I will show you a quite simple one. So if you are the player, that's defined here, you walk into the event trigger, then there is a query to start the dialogue. You put in the name of the dialogue, and then you will put in the speakers in the dialogue. So first it's Kalak, Lae'zel, Astarion, and then Will, and the player is also part of the conversation. So I showed you the script for this dialogue. This is the first convo. It's quite long, but what happens at the end is that you get 2 options as the player. You could either leave or you can listen to the story Astarion is telling. And then if you listen to the story, it sets a flag called the Perfect Creation Play Movie. And then if we go back to our script, something happens. The green stuff is commented out, so that does not happen. But if the flag Perfect Creation Play Movie is set, something happens. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated, because we decided that we wanted to just play a sound without having a bank without creating a sound bank, because that's quite a complex process, which is to use sound from dialogues. So actually, this bowl of shrimp soup or whatever is playing the audio. And that's because we made a conversation. I will show you. We made a dialogue for that soup. I think we called it movie sound. So the spicy shrimp soup actually has this greeting node. And to that greeting node, we added a voice line. So I have a tutorial on this you can look at, but you click add voice and you will get to a place where you can add a VEM file, which is an audio file that the game uses. So when you walk into the trigger area and the conversation starts and you tell Astarion to tell you a story, it sets a flag that triggers this conversation, that plays the sound, and it also sets a flag. It says move trigger. It was supposed to be a movie trigger, but that's just a typo. So when the movie trigger flag is set, the movie starts. The reason we set it up this way is because we found that it's difficult for the engine to trigger a dialogue and a movie at the same time. So sometimes the movie would start playing with sound, sometimes the sound would start playing and the movie just wouldn't happen, or sometimes the movie would just cancel out and then the sound would start playing afterwards. So what we did was, when the soup starts playing the music, we launched a timer, and that's the movie start timer. So after 1 second, when the timer has finished, the movie starts playing. So to play the movie, you can use the commando, the call, movie play. That will play the movie called Avernus. If you do it like this, the movie will just play. And then, if the movie finished, or when the movie finishes, we start a new dialogue that is set up in the same way as the previous one. So that's when Lae'zel and Astarion and Volo have a chat together after the movie. So that will just then start automatically. As you can see here, it's set up in the same way. You have the second conversation and you have to add the speakers. A small note on this. Let's have a look at that conversation. When you set up this script, you have to make sure that the speakers that are part of the conversation are set up in the right order in the script. So I would really recommend testing this, testing your dialogues in the toolkit to be sure that it plays out in the correct way. Okay, so let's just walk over, see how it works. So I'm just skipping through the conversation. Then we'll listen to the story. And as you can see, there was no movie, right? And that's because the movie is contained in a different project. What you could see was two interesting things. It was that something appeared over the soup, which is a toolkit way of saying that the soup conversation is playing. So the movie sound started. And then the dialogue directly after the movie also started, because the movie just wasn't there. So we just skip through this, and as you can see, the sound for the movie is playing from the spicy shrimp soup. So this is now working as intended. So what happens in the project in game will of course be that the movie also plays. So how are we going to make that work? As we've explained in the tutorial on Nexus, we're going to have to make two different packs. But before we get into that, I would like to just comment on something that we didn't really include in the scripts. And that is a fade out for the movie, because as we have set it up right now, the movie ends quite abruptly. So just to show you, what you could do is do the if movie finished. You put in the video name, that would be Avernus. you could write this part, which is trigger movie and fade in, which will make the movie slowly fade away from black and not end as abruptly. And we included that code in the video description and also on the Nexus page. Another thing you'll find in this project is a few test objects. Another thing you'll also find included here is that you can test the second dialogue by using the bowl of shrimp. And if you click on the picture of bear that's on the bar, we were sort of playing around with this, but this is how you would set it up if you wanted to play a sound from a bank. We didn't really get far enough to set it up correctly, but it's something to play around with if you want to see how that would work. So actually in the Perfect Creation project, there is now a sound resource called Blood War that is part of the Perfect Sound bank. If you unpack the project, I'm sure you will find it. The issue with this is that we didn't really get the correct WEM file into it, but it's a starting point at least to see what made from scratch sound bank could look like. And also if you click on the Neogi clause in the corner, that would be in-game when you've loaded both of the projects. We will get to how you do that shortly. If you click on the Neogi clause, the movie alone will play. And that's basically how we have set this up. And the important part is then that we have two different packs. You walk over to Colac, the conversation triggers, that will trigger the sound, and then after a 1 second timer, the movie itself will trigger. In order to have the audio work in-game, you will have to take your pack that contains the audio, and you will have to unpack and repack it with LSLib. So you put in the package path for your pack here, and then you can make a folder called unpack, for example. You can extract the package, and then you have to repack it. So you select the folder where you have unpacked everything, you can see it here, and then repack it. You can repack it directly into the same pack. And then you have a pack file where the audio is going to work in-game. To have both the sound and movie working in-game, what you'll want to do is use, for example, the BG3 Mod Manager. And you will load both the packs. You will load the Perfect Creation movie pack and the Perfect Creation audio pack, which is this one that contains the story and scripts and everything except the movie. And for some reason, what you want to do is to put the movie last in the load order. So you have the project itself loads first, and then the movie just comes after, and the project containing the audio is calling on the movie. And we have tested this on several different computers, and thanks to the testers who tried it, that works fine. One thing that you might want to adjust when you do this yourself is that if you're using a timer, you might want to mess around with the time or your audio file to make sure that it lines up perfectly with the movie.
All right. It's now or never.
Carla, big man.
What have you seen? Enough! Show. Our dear stray has come crawling back, and she's brought fleas. Should have brought an army.
And in conclusion, that's how we did it. We would very much like to thank the people who have been involved, all the people whose assets we've been able to use in this project. Also really want to thank Zariel's voice actor, who agreed to help us record some lines. From my side, I'd like to thank Hyperspace Towel and Lyra for helping me try to figure out how to organize the stuff in my own mind. And I really want to thank Eli, who had this brilliant idea of just making a little movie and then spending months on polishing it. So if someone wants to help out and make a proper custom Avernus campaign, we're happy to give some advice. I don't know if we have time to commit to that sort of thing right now. I'm working on my own project. But anyways, thanks for watching. This was really fun to figure out.